Good afternoon, or depending upon where you are, good morning. This is Jeff up in the Big Game Hunter. It's Tuesday at noon, which translates into career coach office hours. I spend some time twice weekly talking with people about job search, which is what the emphasis of this show is. And Fridays at 9 a.m. Eastern is around managing more effectively, hiring more effectively, leading, being more effective in the workplace and resolving workplace issues. Now, in chat, I'll take questions on any subject, but the ones I feature are questions that I received from people during the last few days that relate to, on this show, job search, and on the other one, the other things, hiring more effectively, managing, leading, all the other stuff I mentioned. And again, if you have a question, put it into chat. And between shows, I just want to encourage you, email your questions to me in advance at thebiggamehunter@gmail.com. And in the subject line, put the phrase office hours. This way I know what it's about and I can respond to your questions easily. I don't have to go looking through my inbox, which that Gmail account gets a lot of crap, unfortunately. And it just becomes an easy way for me to sort through. Again, thebiggamehunter@gmail.com, and in the subject line, put the phrase office hours. Now, I got a bunch of questions this week about job hunting. 2, 4, 6, 8 questions. I try to keep this to about 30 minutes. I'll go a little long if I get questions in chat, so don't worry about it. And the first question is, what is the process for turning in a job application? Here's the fun part. After the hiring period is over. First of all, after the hiring period is over, you want to apply. They filled the job, and now you want to apply. Now, you obviously don't know my work because I'm a believer that you try never, ever to apply for a job through the applicant tracking system because it's called the black hole for a reason. And you're going to go and try to apply and think there's a process for applying after they filled the job. Tell me, what do you think they do with this resume? Answer, okay, maybe it goes into the applicant tracking system if it's not too terrible. Maybe it's just deleted because they think you're an idiot. But fundamentally, there's no process for applying for a job after they filled the job. Okay, I'm going to repeat that. There's no process for applying for a job after it's been filled. What you should do is find out who the hiring managers are who look for people with relevant experience to yours. And from there, try to connect with them and simply say, look, I know you're not trying to fill anything right now. And if you're talking to the one who just did, I'm sorry I'm getting to you late. I wish I would have been part of the process. I hope this person works out for you. But if you need someone new, because, hey, look, it's called the Great Resignation, and people are changing jobs regularly. So if someone else decides to leave, can I forward my resume to you? Maybe stay in touch from time to time. Not ridiculously frequently, but just try and connect with you and see whether you need someone like me so I'm not forgotten. Something along those lines makes sense, but applying for a job that's closed? No, don't do that. You're just a spammer at that point, and you reveal yourself as being a dope. How long does it take for a company to let you know if you got the job after a facility tour, especially since it's past the timeline they've given to me? So, good news, you got brought in for the facility tour. Great. Terrific. And they said they'd be in touch with you at a certain point, and it's past that point. We don't know if it's 1 day past, 1 week, or 1 month past. Call them, text them, email them. Say, when we spoke in person, you told me you'd be back in touch with me around such and such date. It's obviously past that point. Am I still under consideration? Just be that direct with you. When do what I expect to hear about a decision, assuming that I am under consideration? And thus, what you're trying to do is reconnect with them. Now, when I think of someone being brought in for a tour, I'm not thinking of a junior individual. I'm thinking of someone at a management or leadership level. And you should be that direct with them because it reflects your personal leadership to be that direct. That you've delayed past the point, I'm going to assume significantly past the point where you should have heard from them, reflects poorly upon you. Because as a leader of an organization, there's an accountability issue. They stated they would do something, and they're out of integrity with their commitment for you. The result winds up being that you're not showing yourself as the leader you might claim to be. Take the bull by the horns, go for it. Okay, contact them and make that question. Give them that question. Why should an employee agree to attend an exit interview? Well, I want to be clear. I don't believe these should be dumping sessions. If your plan on attending an exit interview would be to dump on your former manager, let it go. Let it go. Provide some praiseworthy information, even if you loathe the individual, because you never know when you run into that person again. If they were an opponent of yours, if they weren't a supporter of yours, everyone already knows it. And all you need to say is, hey, look, it's obvious, he and I disagreed with one another. That's okay. But I could have worked that out. But then this great situation came to me that I thought, it would be best that if I follow through with it. Good opportunity, great team of people, no disrespect to the existing team, but I wasn't going anywhere here. So I decided to act on it. And you say, look, he and I disagreed. That didn't change. And I still respect their right to make those decisions. And as such, why you would attend is to ensure that this individual doesn't say anything critical about you at a time in the future. You're not setting a fire to the house. You're not trying to burn it down and cause that individual to wander around this firm, their next firm, have other people hear the story about how awful you are and how you were mean and obnoxious and disrespectful at the time of the end. All you want to do is to say, hey, look, I'm going on to something else that I think is a better fit for me right now. Why wouldn't you attend? Because there's a message in non-attendance. And thus, attending eliminates that nonsense, gets to a core element, acknowledges the truth of the situation, and then says, I got recruited for something I think is better. So, no disrespect to my current firm or to this firm or to the people I work with or my manager. I just think this is a good opportunity for me right now. And leave it at that. Next question. Why do I think it's not worth applying for jobs at a startup organization? Well, I don't think it's not worth applying for a job at a startup organization. Now, I will say that if you're an older individual and you're considering a new position, you have to be clear about what the demands are going to be at that startup organization. If they have the expectation of a 90-hour week, remember there's only 144 hours in a week, that you're going to sleep under your desk and put in animal hours, this may not be for you. If it's a well-capitalized, well-staffed, like it's a startup, but it's already 2 years in and they have a lot of process in place, this may not feel like a startup to you. Again, why you wouldn't do it is if the demands of this organization, just like the demands of a more substantial organization, exceed those that you would want to commit to doing. The other reason it's not worth it is if the work that you would be doing, just like the work at a larger organization, isn't of interest to you. If you don't respect your future manager or boss, if you don't like your colleagues, You're going to be that much more connected to them working at a startup because it's smaller. You're not buffered by bureaucracy. And the result winds up being the reasons you would not join a startup are the same reasons you wouldn't want to join any organization. And I'll go one extra step with the startup. If they're undercapitalized, you wouldn't want to join because they've got no burn. They've got no flex in their burn rate. They're spending more money that they're taking in. You're not going to have a chance of winning. I'm being recruited for a position and I'm on the final round. But thinking it through, I don't think I want to work there. How can I tell the recruiter that I'm not interested anymore? Well, one thing I do know is that people are sometimes wrong in their assessments. They think this is a job that they're not interested in, and they're under a misimpression. So what I would do is tell the agency recruiter, I've been thinking about it, and I have a couple of questions I want to resolve before I come back for a final. And you lay out what your concerns are. And this could be actually with the corporate recruiter as well. After all, it doesn't matter if these are things that would cause you to be rejected. You would be rejected anyway by rejecting yourself for the role. So ask questions at this point. If you don't like the answers, if after you get it clarified, they haven't resolved the issue for you, simply say, let's skip this one. I'm not feeling like it's the right thing for me. I wish you well. I'm sorry I'm doing this at the latest stage, but I just realized that there were a couple of factors that I wasn't happy with, but the momentum was going along. And the result is I don't want to come back for a final when I don't plan on accepting an offer unless it's a bazillion dollars. And you laugh at that because there's no chance of some insane amount of money being thrown at you. So start by asking questions first to make sure that what you think about the situation or your interpretation of something you were told is accurate. If they tell you, no, that's not true, make sure you raise that as a subject in the interview with them. At some point when they say, so do you have any questions? Yeah. When I was interviewing with previous people, I got the idea that, and you lay out what the area of concern is. When I spoke with HR, with a third-party recruiter, they said, no, it's not going to be like that, or no, that's not correct. So I just want to hear from you directly. Is what I was thinking correct or incorrect? If it's incorrect, let's keep rolling. If it's correct, this may not be the right situation for me. The idea is to test what you're told so you're not put into a situation where you're just relying upon what you were told by someone else who may have a financial interest in you accepting an offer. I believe this is question 6. Yeah. Can I get hired if I am nervous in the interview? Rarely. And part of the reason people get nervous is they're unprepared for interviews. They think they can walk in and kind of wing it. So when they're asked questions that they're not ready for, they get jittery, and that comes through. One of the things that companies look for when they hire is self-confidence. And when you're in a situation where you're, shall we say, not as well prepared as you could be, unable to answer certain questions, excuse me. Excuse me. I'm sorry. Just one of those things that happens involuntarily. So if you're in a situation where you can't answer questions because in some way, shape, or form, you're just not ready to answer things that you should or they think you should, you're going to get nervous. So more preparation. One of the things I do is I have a video course called The Ultimate Job Interview Framework. It's available on Udemy. You can get to the page with that at thebiggamehunter.us/interviews. Again, thebiggamehunter.us/interviews. And they run sales all the time. I have it listed at $25. Most of the time, they're selling it for less. So just order the course, learn how to interview like a pro so that you don't come across as an amateur does. Nervous, frightened, unprepared, unable to inspire confidence that you're the solution. Because that's really one of the things they're looking for. Competence is only one thing. Self-confidence, character, chemistry, some charisma, that you care, all of which adds up to they trust you. Unless you let them feel comfortable that you're the solution because you carry yourself in a way that provides that credibility, the interview is doomed. So always spend some time in preparation. Okay. And again, that's thebiggamehunter.us/interviews. And let's see if I can put that into the notes. Yeah, into chat. Oh, there it is. Good. 7th question. What should I prepare for my 3rd interview that will when I will meet the chief manager? So I want you to start off by reflecting on the previous rounds of interviews. Obviously, you did some things well, but for most people, there are some rough edges that surfaced. And I know from my experience in doing search, it's like a blister. It's a sore. And they're going to pick at it and pick at it and pick at it. Because it was noticed, I'm sure. Nothing ever is unnoticed. It is noticed. And number one is don't treat this like a formality. Doesn't sound like you're doing that, but I'm obligated to state that. Number two is in reviewing the previous rounds of interviews, what were the rough edges that occurred? Where were the places in the interview where you weren't sure that you'd hit on all the points? They're going to go back there. Again, I'll go back to my course. You can order that and simply, do some of the things there. Prepare at least one new story in advance of the interview that you haven't shared with anyone up until this point, so they don't think you have the same 2 stories you're going to keep telling. Depending upon your level of experience, use the STAR format if you're at a staff level, situation or task, action, result as the format of the story. Or if you're a manager level and above, SOAR, situation, obstacles, action, result. In both cases, the result should include a metric of impact: money saved, money earned, percentage improvement. Keep the story to a minute 15 in length. It does make a difference because people stop listening after about that amount of time. By the way, in case you notice, most of the time I'm keeping my answers in a concise way so that if it's not this question that you're going to be interested in, it'll be the next one. Last question for today. Yes. I was so happy when I saw this question. Why is it that when I'm 65, after 45 years in my field, and go to a job interview, I'm turned away, not because I'm unqualified, but because I'm 30 years older than the interviewer? So that starts off with the assumption that that's the reason you're being turned down. You may carry yourself like a know-it-all, like, I got someone who's 30. What, 30, 32? They're never going to hire me. You carry yourself off as defeated. You have the attitude of, I've been there, done that. No big whoop. I can do that. Instead of carrying yourself as having a flexible mind, having adaptability, thinking that this person's someone that you can learn from, making it clear that you want to support them in their success, not because you've been there and done that, but you want to help them win. That's really the focal point, is helping your manager look good. The long and the short of it is, it isn't the fact that you have so much more experience than this person, is that you carry yourself in a way that they don't want to be around you. You don't make them feel as though you're there to serve them. You make it seem as though, yeah, I can do this job, but why should I work for you? And that comes through all the time. I've said this many times. People cop to ageism much too easily. And you probably have noticed I'm not 24. As of this recording, I'm 70, soon to be 71. And most people are surprised when I say that, but it's true. And I'll simply say, if you're really interested in roles, it's time to start thinking differently than the way you have. Ageism exists. It's absolutely true. But most people's attitudes are what get them rejected. They walk into the interview, they see that person who's old enough to be their daughter or son, and they go, oh, they're never hiring me. And it's not like they make that sound I made, but it shows on your face. You don't come across as the friendly guy. You wear things that are dated. Your hairstyle is off. Perhaps you're overweight, because that shows up too, and you don't look as well as you could. It's time for you to start acting like the adult that you claim to be. And don't blame them. Start looking at the mirror and seeing what you can do to be corrective. I was working on a speech recently talking about what people can do, especially when you're younger, to move ahead more readily. One of the things I've been writing about is connecting with more senior people, more seasoned people, to be advisors to them, someone that they could ask questions. And the advisors have no expectation that their advice is going to be followed. And somewhere on the interview, it's not that you're going to say, hey, I could be a trusted advisor for you, because why should they choose you to advise? They have people that they're already managing who fall into that category. But you could talk about how you've done it in your last two organizations. Managers would come to you who were less experienced and ask for your opinion about things. And I knew they weren't always going to follow it, but they wanted to hear it because I had different experiences than them. That's a different way of packaging that age difference that allows you to stand out from the 30-year-old that they might also be interviewing. So again, don't cop to ageism so fast. Look in the mirror instead. I'm Jeff Altman. Hope you enjoyed this. I'll be back Friday at 9 a.m. Eastern with more. And that show is going to emphasize hiring more effectively, management, leadership, resolving workplace issues. And in chat, I'll take questions about job search as well. Again, if you have questions for me, you can send them to me at thebiggamehunter@gmail.com. In the subject line, put the phrase office hours. And I'll also say, I'd love to work with you as a coach. You can schedule time for a free discovery call at thebiggamehunter.us/sessions and schedule a discovery call with me, or schedule time for coaching. I'd love to help you. Lastly, connect with me on LinkedIn at linkedin.com/IN/thebiggamehunter. Mention that you saw this interview. Let me restate that. Mention that you saw this or heard this. I'd love to help you. Have a terrific day. And most importantly, be great. Take care.